Welcome back to KTN News Center. Let's continue with our coverage. And in regards to the ongoing rains, is what is being witnessed, especially in most parts of the country, the normal seasonal rains or El Nino. Caleb Chemirmir, who is the manager at the Public Health in Emergencies and Kenya Red Cross Society, are putting this into perspective at Spice FM earlier this morning. Let's cross over and listen in.
Enhanced rainfall and some effect. So here we are talking about individuals or households that do not normally, and they're not resilient enough. So when you talk about them being displaced or their farmlands being affected or their road networks being affected, then there is a lot of livelihood impact on them that is likely to cause a slightly longer term, mid to longer term effects on their lives. Yeah.
Do I hear you to be saying that these are areas that ordinarily do not experience such rainfall?
The rainfall that is expected within this period of the OND period is enhanced within those areas. To the extent that now these displacements have started happening at slightly, we'll call them the onset period of these rains. So the question begs, what will happen during, the peak period of the rains?
Essentially, the disasters that we're now seeing is not the peak.
We are yet to get to the peak.
When is the peak expected?
I will not give the precise times as regards the peak, but the onsets began mid of October for most of the parts of the country, but some started late October to early November, and the rains within the lower areas of, like areas of Tana River, Garissa, Wajir, it's not only the rain that hits or pours directly on their land, but also what rains on the upper, the highlands of central, the river Tana flowing down, and the impact of that. Kenya Red Cross, together with other partners, the water authorities and communities structures, have been monitoring these river levels just to check and to ensure that we warn communities early enough to be able to move to safer grounds in this period.
So, Caleb, there was prior warning. Yes. Met had said expect some above normal rainfall.
Yes.
Possibly El Nino during this time. So, were these communities aware that this was going to happen? Had there been proper preparation for such kind of disasters?
Message has been shared by the weatherman over time. Meteorological department has communicated. We've had contingency planning jointly and led by government. We've had sector-specific coordination mechanisms by government and partners just to ensure that the country is prepared. So within those preparedness actions, there are things that institutions of government, agencies led by organizations like the Kenya Red Cross, and the communities are engaged in advance to the same. So these includes various modes of communication, including social media, broadcasted messages before the event or even about the event. Kenya Red Cross has supported the preparedness actions by initially sharing messages around the OND rainfall and the enhanced rainfall, the likely effect, and what communities need to do. During such period when now we anticipate maybe within a certain period in a specific location of flooding, maybe because of the monitoring of the river levels or the prediction of the rainfall upstream, then messages are sent to those particular communities in partnership with other partners like Safaricom to ensure that messages go to those particular households and they receive messages about impending flooding in those areas.
Has it had an impact? Like, can you tell us, because of this concerted effort by the various actors, we've actually been able to avert a crisis to this level?
We will not delve into assessing the impact as at now, but it is an essential and important way of going around this to ensure that those communities have adequate information and have choices to make as regards, their safety. Yes.
So maybe I can ask the other way around. Have the communities responded positively to the early warning messages? If you're telling people, beware that you could be affected by flooding because of the swelling of river, this and that, have we seen people moving out willingly before the floods hit?
Through the various coordination mechanisms, especially at community level, sub-county, and even county level, once the messages are broadcasted and also information shared as regards the river level and the likely rains that are likely to pound those areas, we've seen some communities heed, and that is why you will find the number of the affected a little bit higher, far much higher as compared to those who are displaced. Those who are displaced will include those who heeded early and those who were found in the mix of issues. And within the ratio of close to 1,000, you will see that there's a good response, and even by the leadership, because when you are engaging communities, you need the local leadership. Yes, and I think you read the article by the Northeastern leadership, the elected leaders, and also the county government leadership, including the regional commissioners' actions. Those are very important in ensuring that the communities heed to warning.
When we have these heavy rains, is it that these are new areas that are experiencing these heavy rains, or are they the areas that from time to time one hears of? Why I say this is because the Red Cross, and because of its functions, probably understands better than most, probably only the government agencies that are involved understand better of areas that have been affected in the past, the ones which are being affected now. Do we see congruence? Is there something about the areas that are affected the most?
Yeah, that speaks to the contingency plan, both the multi-sector contingency plans as well as sector-specific plans. I say this because at the national level and even at the county level, we have the NDOC-led planning for the various counties. And one of the things that was undertaken during this planning is mapping, just to ensure that based on the historical data, we are able to identify which geographic locations are likely to be affected and even engage those communities in advance. So as regards the sites, as we're seeing right now, they are very close to what we had in the past. There is very little deviation as regards projected or anticipated areas that are prone to flooding based on the past.
When was the last time we had such flooding in these areas, since they're more or less the same areas? This level of flooding?
The flooding is dependent on the precipitation in those particular areas, including where the highlands that feed into those lowlands. So they are varying times.
So if we were to say, for purposes of our discussion, that it happens yearly, there are plans, they've been mapped out, but what are the physical activities that have been taken over time? Because they've seen this before, it's happened before, they know the consequences. What are these things that one need to have been done and to have been done?
I think we need to commend efforts also by government and agencies, including Red Cross, that have been intervened post the previous flooding in those particular areas. Look at the situation in the western part of the country. History will remind you that, at such a time we'll be talking about, serious flooding, displacement and effects, especially those around, the Yala River. And
Budalangi.
Yes, those areas. But you can see the effect to those communities when we have enhanced rainfall has been less over the period because of the interventions that have occurred. Then two, we at times get stuck on the negative bit of it. But we also don't look at what are the opportunities that arise from enhanced rainfall and flooding in those areas. So over time, there have been investments on dams and ponds in those communities. improving their livelihoods through such events, using those dams for farming and improving even access to food and things like that. The government has also supported in, the infrastructure bit. But you see, issues around the pathway that the rivers take, it does not necessarily need to take the same path the same year. Yeah, you will find that where you had, the flash flood streams, which has been dry this season, it passed through this area, and you find that it has moved maybe some 200 meters, 300, especially on the lower lands, as it exits into the oceans and things like that. So instances in Wajir, Tana River, you will find where the rivers precisely passed would not necessarily be exact position, but within the same geographic confines.
Some of the undertakings that are required to mitigate against this may be very expensive, and they may be very capital intensive. But if rivers flood and overflow, can rivers be diverted? Can rivers be dredged?
Those are technical questions that will require engineering lens to those issues.
The reason why I ask
is
because I come from a place that perennially was perennially flooded. The Kano Plains. The Serikali's idea story. Okay? Now, it's one river, it's called Nyando River. Okay? Now, there was a period when the flooding, but this is a story I repeat all the time because it's important. There was a period when that flooding ceased to the point of almost being non-existent. The problem simply didn't occur as it used to before. When I talk about dredging, it actually took place. When I talk about perhaps diverting it so that instead of just one pathway, it has more than one pathway, it happened. The very things you say, pans were built or dredged, because the pans had been in existence. They were just over time covered
by silt.
Yes, and so you'd find all manner of vegetation on it, but very little water. Meaning, what I'm asking is, there are things, and you've mentioned, that can be done, even by communities. It does not require government intervention. Not really. It may require the mechanized services in the department or the Ministry of Agriculture or roads department to help, but it's something that can be done. The question I'm really asking is, we have all these water bodies right across the country. Now, is there something in their docket that is supposed to cater? Because we're talking about water here, more water than we know what to do with. I'm asking, should they not be at the center of this particular conversation?
It is, and as I told you, there is the overall contingency plan that we're following through. Red Cross plays its role within that national plan, even the sector-specific plans.
Let's now cross over live to the Bomas of Kenya, where the National Dialogue Committee is having a round table